let's talk about Copenhagen Cowboy, Netflix's latest neo-noir thriller series from the mind of one of the strangest active directors in the world. This one's a bit of a head spinner, but I am going to be discussing key plot details and themes from the show in this honest review. That means, of course, there will be major spoilers ahead. You have been warned. For the first time on Unleash the Ghouls, we have an NWR production to dissect. That's Nicholas Winding Refn, if you didn't know. He's the mind behind some real cult classics of this century, films which have propelled the careers of performers such as Tom Hardy, Ryan Gosling, and Carey Mulligan, to name but few. I am, of course, referring to a vast arrangement of mega weird cinematic experiences such as Bronson, The Neon Demon, Only God Forgives, and in my opinion his greatest work, Drive. NWR's works often have common threads linking them all: beautiful cinematography and a striking use of lighting, tapping into often tightly protected pockets of society such as modelling agencies, the prison system and criminal organisations, and exploiting the twisted nature of them. NWR also loves blank empty spaces of little to no dialogue, and from time to time enjoys writing protagonists who don't often speak. Well, all of these tropes are brought to life in the oddly titled Copenhagen Cowboy, a name which I don't think reflects the show at all, other than it does indeed take place in Copenhagen. The pockets of society explored in this NWR show include the sex worker trade and the drug-pushing trade, the seedy criminal underbelly of Denmark's capital. Our rather quiet protagonist here is Miu, played by Angela Bundelovich. This is one strange character, let me tell you. Miu has a boyish appearance, having her hair cut short and always wearing a blue tracksuit, and her goal throughout the series is to take out certain dominant figures who run aspects of that criminal underworld. Miu is played in an extremely otherworldly way. At times she just sort of stares blankly at people, not saying a word. Yet other times she's a badass martial arts expert. It's a bizarre dichotomy to this character. Appearance-wise, she's magnetic. Something equally off-putting, yet it's easy to be fixated to her. For all that she was off the wall, Miu was a fairly cool protagonist. And on paper, her revenge mission sounds like a pretty cool concept. In realization, See, here's the thing. I do find NWR to be a super eye-opening director who is always able to put out visually striking pieces of work which slot right into the art house genre in the best possible way. However, to me, fairly often, his screenplays also slot right into the art house genre in the worst possible way. I love art house cinema, though the worst kind of art house to me is where the script goes beyond the realm of the viewer being able to interpret it in multiple ways and achieve enjoyment from doing so. Copenhagen Cowboy leans more on the side of, wow, I'm really struggling to figure out what's going on. This show has a lot of characters, all with different motives, yet are presented in a rather sudden fashion. It doesn't hold your hand and say, this is who this character is. You get shown them in the same way you'd see them if you were a fly on the wall. In their world, these characters don't need contextualizing, because that's not how the world works. They are who they are. So the viewer gets to look at that world, and a lot of the time it's up to them to work stuff out. However, because of NWR's distinct style of dreamlike droning sound design and editing, I couldn't crack if this show was aiming to be literal or metaphorical. Take some elements of the sound design, for example. The utilization of squealing and grunting pig sounds are used at several points, including in scenes where fetish pleasure is dished out. There are also times where, in moments of rage, characters are given animalistic roars instead of their human screams. This to me is painting a picture of this world. Those who seek out taboos in order to feel a heightened sense of rapture are likened to pigs, which are symbolic of greed and gluttony, as well as being unclean. It's the self-indulgence of those who pay for hard drugs and sex which makes them impure, and that's something which symbolically Miu wants to put a stop to. In terms of the animal roars, this links to those characters wanting to assert their dominance, in particular the character of Nicholas. Nicholas was an interesting character character despite being a bit of a dropped ball to me. He picks up one of the girls expecting some action, which she receives by being strangled. He's a vicious killer, coming from a lineage of killers, including his uncle Bloodtooth, said to have been a great murderer. It's even said that Nicholas has a tendency to drink blood. He eventually gets his comeuppance when he's fed to the pigs, which wind up biting off his own little porker, disfiguring him to the point he has to wear this black gimp suit, reminding me of Sharaz Jek from the Doctor Who story The Caves of Androzani. This character sadly was a bit of a waste to me. I so wanted him to be a cool antagonist, and after his killing earlier in the series, I was hoping for that, but he just sort of fades into the background and doesn't really fulfill his full potential. That's kind of my main issue with this whole show, to be honest, the antagonists. There's several of them kicking around, but none of them feel all that developed. That's the trouble when you write like NWR writes. It's all a bit fantastical and otherworldly, where the dialogue is very out there and often difficult to pin down into relevance. You've got Andre and Morella, who run the House of Girls, which Miyu becomes a part of. You've got Nicholas, the killer, who doesn't get up to all that much, truth be told. You've got Mr. Chang, who runs the Chinese mafia and apparently has superpowers where he can just appear and stuff. That baffled me, as did Miyu. At one point she claims she was kidnapped by aliens when she was a kid, in a dead serious scene which doesn't really get explained. She can also perform crazy martial arts and is really powerful. Yeah, I'm just not sure on a first watch of the show who or what Miyu is intended to be, or if these kind of scenes are meant to be taken literally or not. Is this show supernatural? Is it extraterrestrial? Is it a real world? It's a head scratcher and up for interpretation and theory, which to be honest seems like something NWR enjoys doing anyway, as most of his works inspire a similar feeling of not really knowing what you've seen and being baffled into where to start for if you want to try and solve it. It's for that very reason why I think that casual watchers likely won't gel very well with this show, and I can imagine plenty of social media comments along the lines of, "It's too artsy-fartsy," and "I didn't understand what was going on." These styles of production are their own gift and curse, often leading to them always remaining with cult followings but never really breaking out into mainstream success. Though that's not always what a director wants. So long as NWR is satisfied with the small followings his creations will likely garner, then that's all that should matter really. It's a shame because he is incredibly talented. I feel like he could perhaps be better suited to directing someone else's screenplay, and that tackling a pure horror film would be something that would play very well to his strengths. His whole vibe merges with the A24 aesthetic, so that's something I'd really like to see in my own little dream world. As for Copenhagen Cowboy, to sum it up, I adored the visuals here. The utilisation of reds, blues, pinks and purples were simply gorgeous. It's one of the best looking shows I've seen in quite a while. But whether intentional or not, I can't help but react to the show in any other way than its style over substance. I love when stuff looks this good, but if I can't integrate myself comfortably into the world, then it's a struggle for me to get behind. The first 2 episodes I thoroughly enjoyed, but as the series progressed, I became increasingly detached. This to me would have been stronger focusing on one of the elements of the world, not trying to take on a handful of antagonists and organisations. Quite possibly it may have been stronger as a 2-hour film as opposed to a 6-episode miniseries equating to over 5 hours of runtime. It led to the show often feeling bloated and a challenge to cling to, unfortunately. However, that's just what I think. I'm not a critic or an expert, just a guy who watches stuff, and my word certainly isn't gospel, so if you'd like to share your thoughts on Copenhagen Cowboy in the comments below, I'd love to read them to see what you think. After all, that's the beauty of subjectivity. I've been Connor from Unleash the Ghouls, and we shall see you next time for another honest review. Cheers out.